Welcome to A Watchman's Journal. I'm Diana Larkin, and I am very excited today to be bringing back the triple threat. We are just very thankful to the Father for opening this window of opportunity for the three of us to be together again. And we will be discussing another prophetic dream that Ash had. And I've entitled it President Trump and the Biggest Plane. So, John, thank you so much for joining us today.
So good to be here. Thank you, Diana.
It really is. John is mastermind behind Dream Life Decoded, and so much is going on. We'll let him share a little bit about that. And Ash West, welcome, part of a Watchman's Journal team, and of course, on his own, just making trouble wherever he can.
Or trying to stay out of it at least. Thank you for having me on, sis, and great to be with you as well, brother. And thank you, everybody, for your well wishes and your prayers. I really felt them and it really worked. So love you guys. Thank you.
You're looking much more healthy than the last time I saw you. Praise God. So, John, fill us in just a little bit about what's happening with Dream Life Decoded and you personally. And
yes, well, thank you. It's there's so much that's going on. We've gotten our courses college accredited, so we have Spiritual Intelligence Mod 1 and Mod 2, and we also have an ongoing enrollment, so people can join those today.
Awesome.
We don't have like you have to wait till a class and just till there's an enrollment, and there's been a lot of interest, and so we kind of made an open enrollment, and we also have a go at your own pace kind of a style. Where they can do one class a week, or they could do 5 a week, or they could do whatever style that they wanted. And so redoing the curriculum, it's 128 hours of new curriculum.
Wow.
And so it's been a lot of filming, and we're getting kind of closer to the end of it, which is good because I've been doing about 2 hours of teaching Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday every week, and with travel, it's a little rough, but we've changed the name to Dream Life Decoded Institute, but we're also moving into launching some new things around like the College of Spiritual Intelligence. And so again, instead of just being training courses, these are courses that can apply credit towards a degree. We're working with a college or two that is looking into that, one that's already approved us, and several others that are looking at partnering with us in that respect. And and so there's a lot happening there. And then, of course, in the meantime, there's an ever-growing group core base of people that I'm privileged to be able to lead that is looking at all kinds of dreams and visions and prophetic words that are coming in that are helping to define the times that we live in and the days that are ahead. So very, very exciting.
Wow, that is, I'm over the moon excited for you that this is coming to pass, because this is meant to be. And I'm excited to see where you will be 5 years from now. It's going to be, I'm glad I knew him back then.
You guys are a big part of this.
Well, thank you. I love being with you and Ash. There's a synergy that takes place, and God begins to move and speak and bring revelation, and that's always very exciting. He's never dull, never boring, and this is the greatest time in history so far to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the cusp, the very edge of so many exciting breakthroughs. So all of you, hang on. Enjoy the ride. It's a roller coaster, but I tell you, we're going to get to the end safely. And there's lollipops, and there's ice cream sundaes, and there's cotton candy at the end of this ride. So you just hold on. Well, Ash, why don't you begin sharing your dream with us? Let's jump into this.
Do it. All right. So I had this dream on the 6th of the 12th of December last year. I had it at 8:45 in the morning, and I was in Georgia at the time.
8:45 on 12:12.
6:12.
6:12.
Yeah.
For us Americans, Ash, yes, you have to.
Okay. I'll do the opposite. Yeah.
Twelve
Uh-huh.
six.
Yeah. 12:06, 24. There you go.
Okay.
So a
Okay.
year ago, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, right. Okay. So I am looking outside of a country home window. It was on the right side of the home and at least two or three levels up in the home. There are lots of tall trees surrounding a big, huge garage that looked like an aeroplane hangar. It has doors like a garage that would come down from the top. It was white and towards the top had paneled windows. I then see to my left an aeroplane that I know belongs to Donald Trump, and it's the biggest aeroplane I have ever seen. I know the equipment on board is high tech. I know the plane itself is one of a kind, and yet it looks like it's from an older time, 70s, 80s era. I know Trump is pulling in on that plane and it's reversing back into the garage. I watch this process take place and I'm in awe of it. I am now stood outside the plane. Donald Trump walks down the steps, down the rails, comes and gives me a hug, then walks with me. His left arm was around my shoulders, and we are both happy. He says, I'm excited, and has this big smile on his face. End dream.
That
Well,
is an amazing dream.
that's a fun one.
Uh huh.
So, right off the bat, I was just adding up the time you had the dream and the date, and they both equal 17. And 17 biblically is like overcoming. It's like overcoming victory. And of course, we know that it's also the 17th letter of the alphabet, which means a lot to a lot of people that with the Q. And so that's pretty fun.
Wow. 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 Yeah. Double 17.
Yeah.
That's two 17s and at the time.
Yeah.
Date literally. Wow.
Wow.
Look at that.
So tell me, Ash, who do you think you represent in the dream?
I think it's very much like the people, the
Okay.
population,
Okay.
population. I feel it's an overview of what everybody is either seeing or is going to witness and see um, through the window, the right side window, right? The country home window. So it's specific. It's a country. So
Yeah.
I would say to the country, it's we the people. It's the American people that are going to
Okay.
look through this home window.
And I like that what were you, 3 or 4 levels up?
Mm,
2 or 3,
right?
2 or 3 levels up, which means you're looking from a spiritual perspective instead of on the ground level, just looking from a natural perspective. And I always like that.
yeah.
That's
And
good.
again, it's like at least. And I think that's
Okay.
instructive for all of us as well. For those people that are looking out that window, of that country window, it's almost like a calling, a beckoning, like at least you've got to come up here
Mhm.
to see this and understand this and start discerning and interpreting this and seeing for it for what it really is. decode not just the dream, but the reality of this playing out in real life.
Mm. Yeah. Any
Wow.
Yeah.
initial thoughts, John?
Well, yeah, I think it's really interesting. As I This week, I was reminded of a dream that we had a while back surrounding events that were taking place outside at an airplane hangar. So I think this is interesting that he lands and it's the biggest plane, and then it's backing into, excuse me, an airplane hangar, and then he gets out and then he walks with you. So there were some people that were walking together in the dream, being accompanied in this other dream. President Trump was in the dream. And we found it to be very, very accurate of some events that just took place this week. Naming countries by name, naming attacks by name, naming where these countries would attack after a series of events, having the events spelled out in a timeline. Um, and so I see that's the first thought that comes to mind, is I'm immediately reminded of Trump walking with somebody, a hangar, um, because that's basically the dream. The dream, excuse me, there's not a lot of action in the dream. I feel like, and I've never said this about anything before, but I feel like this is like a placement dream.
Mhm.
That there's pieces, namely the biggest plane and the president, that have been positioned, and I feel like God is giving us a confirmation of a time, perhaps a date and a location. And so those are the things that I'm looking for as we go into this dream is, um, when did you have it? You had it 12/6. Um, I wonder what happened 6/12 um, of this year. I don't know where that was in the timeline of the hostilities in the Middle East. I do feel like it's addressing some of the things happening in the Middle East. Um, the base that was attacked in Qatar is, I think it's our largest air base in the Middle East. So the idea of the biggest
Oh,
plane.
yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to put something. So it was December 6th of 2024.
Correct.
And so it's been 6 months and a few days.
Mhm.
But the 6th was, for some reason, June 6th was significant this year. So that's interesting that that was the 6 months.
What happened June 6th this year? Do we know?
Andrew Whalen's new baby girl was born that
That's
day.
Yeah.
significant.
And
Congratulations.
she is a symbol of the nation being rebirthed.
Mm.
Um, if he just gave the testimony on Elijah Streams. You'll have to go and listen to it if you missed it, because it's pretty incredible
Mm.
and miraculous birth that happened for them. Um, and he said something else about the 6th, which has left my brain, but um,
Mm.
I think it was a marker. That day was a marker. And so that makes sense that this dream would also be a marker.
It's
I,
interesting.
I
I
love the
wonder what
country
happened on the
home.
12th. Huh?
I love the country home.
Country home.
It's a country.
Country home. The home country. Like the home office, right?
Yeah. Wow. This is nuts. Yeah, absolutely nuts. Um, I'm just looking at stuff that happened on June the 6th this
Okay.
year. You had in Colorado in the Pearl, let me start here. 7 people are injured, including the perpetrator, and one critically, in a firebombing attack when a man attacks protesters demanding the release of Israeli captives who remain in Gaza at the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. So that's the first thing that pops
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Uh, Yeah, I'll continue looking at this on the
All right.
stage.
What else do you see, John?
Oh, wow. This was the crash of the Boeing 787. The India flight was June 12th.
Oh,
242 people, all but one guy survived out of
that
242.
was incredible.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Why are we talking about a hangar again in this dream? Um, what's that hangar mean?
The
A
hangar is the
covering?
yeah, it's so if a hangar, you kind of got to go backwards to what is housed in a hangar. Airplanes. What do airplanes represent? Airplanes a lot of times represent multiple things, but certainly the prophetic. In regards to Air Force One, the presidential plane, which for those that don't know, any plane that the president is flying on becomes their designation is Air Force One.
Mhm.
So even if it was a Trump plane, even if it was a Qatari plane, whatever, if the president's on it, it's now Air Force One. So I think it's just really interesting that to have a hangar that can house the biggest plane, it has to be a really, really, really big covering. It has to be a really big. This is protection for the plane, and of course, the plane provides protection, transportation. But the hangar is like a way station for planes. Planes are parked in hangars when they're not out on the tarmac and when they're not flying. So it's a temporary place for them to be in preparation for what's going to happen next. And that's why I say I feel like the base that was attacked in Qatar is our largest air base in the Middle East. I think it's really interesting the controversy over Qatar gifting a jet to President Trump and everybody pretending like it was his personally, which when a president receives a gift, for those that don't know and choose not to listen to the media pretended like, oh, it was a bribe and oh, it was this and oh, it was that, which is absolutely ridiculous. Not only is it wrong, they know it's wrong. Like, it's not like, oops, it's like they're intentionally lying to the American
Mhm.
people yet again,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, I can't wait. And I think it's starting to happen that God is beginning to raise up a generation of truth tellers that will be the antithesis of what the mainstream media lying propaganda machine is
Hmm.
today.
That was
And
my word this morning, John.
was it? Really?
My word this morning was on truth tellers. Yep. Yep.
Wow. I don't say that word very often. It's just, I must be picking you up in the spirit, Diana. Well, and even the lawsuit, the $800 million lawsuit against The View. I just think that stuff is really, and I'm glad that they're not backing off. They're not going to
Mhm.
settle on that.
Mhm.
She's like, no, this is it. And basically, we have you dead to rights, and it's going to
Mhm.
bankrupt probably The View, but it could bankrupt the network as well,
Yeah.
or come really, really close. Nobody has $800 million sitting around in a slush fund so they can say bad things if they have to pay off somebody who they slandered. And so I think it's interesting, and I think we're going to enter. I think that's going to happen more and more. I think the media is going to be held to an account, and they're not going to be able. Yeah, you have the right of free speech, but if you knowingly and willfully slander, which is what they've been doing,
Mhm.
even this alleged leak of the battle assessments of the Farad base in Iran, where they're like, oh, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. It was clearly that somebody illegally gave them information, which that person needs to be prosecuted and put in jail.
Mhm.
And then the reporter that printed it needs to be prosecuted and put in jail, and perhaps the editors, because we cannot trust a mainstream media that prints whatever they want. And the report clearly says this is highly unlikely. The initial assessments will have to take weeks to confirm, and they printed it as fact in an attempt to smear the president.
Mhm.
And so there's a price to pay. Now, again, you can say whatever you want. It's America. But when you knowingly lie to the American people, you need to be prosecuted, period.
Yeah.
And I think we're entering into that. We've gone through phases of exposure in this nation, and I feel like we're still there in places of exposure that are happening, but now it's exposure with consequences. Now it's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, there's an Epstein list. Now it's like, okay, people are starting to get prosecuted for things like the P. Diddy stuff. There
Mhm.
are lawsuits, there are consequences, there are even the slander lawsuits against things like The View. It's just,
Yeah.
it's interesting, but I believe that this dream is about placement. And the
Okay.
biggest plane, I hear several things. I hear the big, beautiful bill. I hear the biggest plane, and I hear the largest base, the largest air base, which makes me believe that this is about the base that was attacked in Qatar. But again, also because God kind of preempted that earlier in the week with having me look up a dream about a hangar President Trump was in. He was giving a press conference to a small amount of people, and something happens with him that we discerned. It's not in the dream that the base gets attacked, it's not in the dream who attacks the base, but because God gave us through interpretation, Iran is going to attack this base. But after multiple things happen, I believe that what God is doing, and again, I had a feeling. In fact, I thought of calling you, Diana, and you, Ash, and saying, hey, maybe we should talk about what's going on in the Middle East today. But I just felt like God is like, I got this. Like, just hold on. And as it happens, because I had no idea until a few minutes ago what we were going to talk about. And as soon as we got on, I was like, what are we talking about today? Because this really cool thing happened in our intel world, that intelligence that we did 3 and 4 years ago provided a pattern and a chain of events with players, with the names of ships, with the names of countries, with the names of leaders, and with attacks on this one base in
Yeah.
particular. And it unfolded like we saw.
Yeah.
And and I was just like, wow. At some point, I'm really considering briefing that publicly. I usually don't, because we provide information like that, and our heart is to provide information like that to people that can use it, whether it's people in the administration or people that work for certain set agencies or whatever. We want to be able to provide actionable intelligence of events that can happen and unfold. But it was really interesting to me that the work on this was done 3 and 4 years ago. And so having it come up now, and God reminded me of the dream before the attack on the base happened. And there's a battle assessment that the attack on the base would be minimal, and that then there would be a response, and that there would be ultimatums that weren't, and it's all in a particular order. And it's just like, wow, this is what we're seeing. So I feel like the purpose of this dream is to it provides personal encouragement to me, but it's to be able to say, back when we first interpreted the dream, we thought it was for 2022.
Mhm.
We didn't think it was for 2025. People aren't having dreams today thinking, well, maybe this is for 2028 or 29. We tend to think kind of on a linear, immediate, present day scale. And when you look at even some of the words of prophets in the past, whether it's Kim Clement or anybody else, you can see a lot of times they're multiple years out.
Yes.
Um,
That's very, very true, John. Just going back to the airplane hangar,
uh,
um, my dad worked for Western Airlines, which became Delta Airlines right after World War II. And he worked there his whole career, and he fixed planes. And so there were several times that we got taken into one of Western Airlines hangars. And you can pull 2 or 3 jets in these hangars. They are immense, immense.
wow.
I was little then, but it was like these things are huge. And that it just gives me a scope of the protection that is over President Trump and how he's been called to fly the biggest airplane we've ever seen. So,
Wow. Um, my head's exploding. When did you say you had this dream?
So the 6th of the 12th last year. So 6th of December.
December 6th of 2024.
And so we were just looking up 6-6, right?
Right, because this was December 6th, so we were looking up 6-6.
So and then the number 12, right?
Yes.
So so the guy who had this dream, and it's the guy who had this dream that was sent to us had the dream on 6-6.
Oh,
2021.
no way.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and I don't know why I'm looking this up now, but I'm
Oh my
looking at the
gosh.
date, and I'm like 6-6. You have got to be kidding me!
Wow.
Like,
Wow. Wow.
I'm just going to read the first few sentences.
Okay.
The dream takes off with me escorting, along with a Secret Service security detail, through a dark airplane hangar, a 2-person Mideast delegate. The daylight is streaming through the main door on the hangar and a large open garage door near the right side of the hangar.
Oh my gosh.
Just the right side because the plane came from the left.
Yeah, you said it was like a garage door that opens, because hangar doors don't open that way. They open like barn doors side to side. And you said it was like a garage door was how you described it.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And it's white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So what strikes me now, just you can go on with that dream, but what caught my attention is he was with Secret Service then, and he's not with Ash. He's very relaxed and just like throwing his arm over his shoulder and walking with him.
Yeah.
So something has happened.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and when he's walking through, he's not with the president. He's with a Secret Service detail and a Mideast delegate. And the president is outside. And this is when somebody walks up to the president and like, boom, hits him in the shoulder right while he's at the podium talking to press. And the president is like, oh, it's like a glancing blow off the shoulder. But yeah, wow, this is
glancing blow off the shoulder.
Uh-huh.
Are you kidding me? On that side, where the assassin hit the shot.
Yeah.
Side of the ear.
Yeah.
Glance off the shoulder. Wow.
Yeah.
This, I'm going to share this. So I need to really focus on the date. I think it was, I want to say it was after that event. I was on a prayer call with a team and I had a vision and some information come through that there was, when they were going to do the conference, or they were going to do an event with Donald Trump in an ice rink or a stadium, something like that, because they moved it from an open air event to an indoor.
Yeah.
I was shown a disassembled semi-automatic weapon, and it was being brought out of a case, and it was being assembled up. That's what I saw. And then I saw the area, the arena where Trump was in. And then I saw the word Iran. And that was it. That's all I saw.
Oh, wow.
So there was a target with a weapon being assembled against the President of the United States.
Yeah.
I say this to say that obviously it didn't go down at that event. Everything was fine. But like you just said, John and Diana, we think in the moment, or we think, or we look back in hindsight, which is pretty much what I'm kind of doing now. And I believe it was the shot taken at the presidency of the United States of America, but not the individual man directly himself, but the nation. And it was the plan of Iran to take this shot, i.e., we've just gone through and seen this last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
As a distraction.
Okay. So this June 26th, since it's June 26th today, this dream popped up that I had recorded that was June 26, 2023. And basically the dreams, what the message in the dream was, is that something destructive was going to take place in Pennsylvania. And that's where the shot took place.
July
2 years
13th.
later. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, just a year. 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. No, it happened in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happened, what was it? July
July 13th.
13th. Okay.
June 26th would have been. There's 30 days in June. So 26 to 30, that's 4. And then 13, that's 17.
Oh,
Wow.
So a year and 17 days later.
wow. Okay. Because I never did see anything destructive when I was reading that dream. I thought, what destructive happened in Pennsylvania? And I thought, oh, the assassination attempt. So, wow, interesting. Well, carry on, you guys. Yeah.
I remember actually, I think I remember that dream, sis. And
Okay.
I think I remember me and you having a discussion saying like we need to ask John because we were thinking it was something to do historically with the United States of America.
Yeah.
So
Going
Yeah.
back.
did you have the full dream? Can you read the full dream?
Well, I could.
I don't know how long it is, but
Okay.
you got time.
It was a big, long dream, but I only remembered the last scene. I
Okay.
received a note from a man I didn't know, but it was a very heartfelt about his experience with the Lord. So it was like validating who he was. Then he came to our house, and I'm in the other room, but I hear him talking to my husband. And my husband says, "Are you going to school?" But when I came around the corner and saw the man, he had white hair, so I was surprised. Why is he asking about school? But the man is sharing intel he received about a destructive attack that will be launched that day or the next, and it will destroy Pennsylvania and the areas around it. And then I woke up. And of course, the areas around it are Washington, D.C. and New York. So something rocked that place. And there were people that said he won the election because of that destructive act that happened in Pennsylvania. I think he would have won anyway, but
Yeah.
And I believe that this man was from the Great Cloud of Witnesses because he matched the description of Andrew Whalen dreaming about who he calls Mr. Miyagi. It's a real life person he met who was high in the intelligence and just revealed some amazing things to Andrew before he is now in heaven. And he validated the Q movement in a dream to praying medic Dave Hayes. The same figure appeared to Dave Hayes. And in the dream, he introduced himself as Mr. Miyagi. So when I told Andrew Whalen that Dave Hayes had a dream with Mr. Miyagi in the Q movement, it blew his mind because he really hadn't made this relationship he had public at all, and had just decided to give him that code name. And a couple years before, Dave Hayes heard that name in a dream. So
wax on, wax off.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
Well, that's what
I
I
know.
hear.
Yeah. What do you got, John?
I just heard wax on, wax off. But yeah, I think it's Andrew has God does really speaks to him in dreams. I love the dreams that he gets,
Yeah.
and some of the I've got to work with him a little bit. There's so much more I'd love to do with him, just because God really, he has such a heart for high level spiritual warfare, what he calls special forces kind of type of
Yes.
spiritual warfare, and training a generation in a different level of, it's almost like special weapons and tactics on the spiritual warfare side. And he's had so many dreams that it's some of the times he posts them, like we look at all of his dreams. He'll post a dream and we'll pull that down and we'll be like, oh wow, God is talking about this and this and this. And half the time I'm like, Andrew, this is cool. And it's like, man, we need to get together and talk, but we're both so busy that we haven't had a chance. I'd love to at some point actually just do a, whatever you call this, a broadcast, a show with him
Yeah.
because of those dreams that he has and just being able to bring a level of spiritual intelligence. Um, there's things that God can reveal, as we know, at a base level, but then there's things like we see unfolding live as we get together on the triple threat. Oh, it reminds me of this dream. Oh, he had it 6/6/21, which is the opposite of 12. Like, I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. It's a hangar, it's white, it's a garage door, it's the right
Hmm.
side. Trump gets hit on the right side with this glancing blow on his shoulder. And there's just so many things that it's very, very clear. Like if there's one or two things, oh, I dreamt about a hangar as well. But dreaming about a hangar, dreaming about it on a date that's significant, dreaming about it in relation to something that just happened in the geopolitical world, and then five different things confirming a short dream like Ashes with a dream that somebody had 3 or 4 years ago. It's just
Yeah.
it gets to the point where if you're still wondering if all dreams come from God and if there's intelligence in dreams, it's almost like you got a little bit of catching up to do, because as much as we get into this stuff, I'm just reminded more and more how these messages are divine, how it seems like they're almost cyclical, how God will bring up times and
Yes.
seasons. Like, why did he give this dream to this guy 6/6/21? And now we're talking about a very similar dream, 12/6/24, you know.
Mhm.
And so there's things that God is releasing and things that he's saying that are for this generation and for right now and even this week that have happened that I believe are, what did I use? I used the term placement dreams, where basically it's providing a level of context to the setting and perhaps the time. And the setting could be what's in the news this week, and the time frame could be the attack on the base of Qatar. And so it's there's so much more. We have over 100 pages on a dossier related to this dream and like 10 others.
Mhm.
There's so much more information that God is releasing. Um, and that's what I love, to be able to have conversations with people that really understand, God is using in the realm of spiritual intelligence to kind of show people that, hey, dreams, as well as visions, as well as prophetic words, are incredibly accurate, particularly for this time we're in. And if you've ever been in a place that I've been before where you've looked at the prophetic and you're like, man, it just seems like it's all over the map. And how do you know what is for right now? And how can you get an accurate word? You got different people saying, coming out of that place of frustration to say, okay, God, have you given me a holy dissatisfaction for the way things have been, the old wineskin? And is that because you want to develop a vision in
Yeah.
me and others of what the prophetic community, the seer realm could look like moving forward? And of course, we call that movement the movement of spiritual intelligence, where analysis is taken at a deep level. We don't look at a dream at a base level and then blow it off. We catalog all of these things. We write down the times, the dates. And Diana, you're a poster model, a supermodel for that kind of work, because you catalog all the
Mhm.
words you get and they're printed, and then you do the
Yeah.
videos, and then you do the follow-up, and then it's searchable. And this is the kind of things that God is moving us towards, is being able to have cataloging and even databasing of the words that God is
Yes.
releasing. Because when it doesn't happen in a 2 week time span, we're kind of off to the next thing, like we're distracted, and God, like, now that was for 4 years ago, but wait for it, because when it hits, it's going to be incredibly accurate. Like, you're not even going to be able to believe that this dream was from this
Yeah.
time. And then it's not till we sit down to even interpret a dream that, like I told you guys, I wanted to talk about that other dream because it specifically predicted through interpretation
Yeah.
the Iranian attack on the base of Qatar,
Yeah.
as well as about five other things that was surrounding that event. But God said, oh, don't call them. You know how I do it. They're going to bring up a dream and it's going to connect in. And it was about an airplane hangar and the largest base and white and garage doors. And so we're seeing all of that, but we had no idea when we started talking, when I haven't seen you guys in,
Yeah.
month or a couple of months, and we get on the Zoom call and we're just catching up. Hey, what's going on? And hey, and I'm like, hey, what are we talking about today? And then they Ash starts sharing a little bit, and I start saying, well, I got this other dream from 4 years ago. And as I start just saying a few details, Ash is just like, he's trying to keep his mouth shut because he's like, yes, so God is providing the confirmation and you're seeing it unfold in real time. What I want you to know as you're watching this is we didn't know before we came together that we were going to talk about kind of the same thing, that God had a dream from 6 months ago and he had a dream from 4 years ago that we're discussing now that dovetail perfectly into one another. And that's just how God does it. And it's not just with us, the triple threat, but it's 3 born-again, spirit-filled believers who have a high value for God and his word in both the seer realm and the prophetic coming together and saying, hey, I don't know. None of us owns the revelation at all.
No.
We're just offering our piece. Well, I have this piece and I have this piece and I have this piece. And then God just weaves the whole thing together through this 3-strand cord. And we get so many comments from these shows that we do, and it's almost like we didn't have any idea the show was going to end up the way it does. But God does this with us like almost every time, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
So
Every
true.
time.
So true.
He also does it on your live shows as well with Dream Life Decoded every Tuesday. And he seems to have been having a habit of doing it on the live shows I do every Friday with the group.
The ones I've gotten to listen into, a theme like just develops. It's like crazy.
So it's not just 1 or 2 dreams, like you've got 5 to 6 dreams kicking off, and the Lord's just going, right, this one next, this, and you see the jigsaw puzzles coming together. And these people don't know each other.
No.
They don't, apart from the community within John's community, Diana's community, or my, like, they don't know each other personally. So you can't say, oh, this is all scripted or this was plans. Like, no, okay, well, put another challenge to God and see how he solves it for you, because this is what's going on live. And again, I love this because I know John preaches on this, I know Diana does. When we keep hearing these people that are undiscerning and they're immature, whether it's they're starting their journey or they've just been lied to in regards to doctrine of false prophet, false prophet. Okay, so you want to stick to that, that's fine. But I know at least every person at least can recall one dream they've had in their life, at least one. So if you want to prove that dream interpretation isn't for today and it's not part of the prophetic or the seer realm and it's just, whoopy doopy, whatever it is, I challenge you people that are watching this right now to find fault. Go and find a dream or remember a dream that you've had, or if you get one, right, ask God for one. Okay. And then literally document it, write it down, send it over to Dream Life Decoded, send it over to a Watchman's Journal, send it over to me. And it's again what John just said, it's not us. God will give us the interpretation, just like Joseph said to a king, just like Daniel said to a king. We start in humility. We do exactly the same thing those 2 guys did. It all comes from him. It doesn't come from us. It comes through us. That's the difference. So test this. And then when you get the interpretation, test it like you're supposed to do with everything that's prophetic, a prophetic word. Test it, weigh it, take what serves you and is right for you. And you go, yeah, that actually does. And everything else, move it away. Move it away. And you will find out very, very quickly that it's not just prophets that God speaks to. He speaks to you directly. So, not led to say that.
Back to the dream. There are lots of tall trees surrounding a big, huge garage that was an airplane hangar. So are the tall trees symbolic of something, or are they letting us know where this hangar is?
Do you know what kind of trees they were?
To me, they just looked like, I want to say oak trees, those kind of trees. They were very, very tall, very, very tall, and very large within their trunks. They were
Okay.
very, yeah.
They call
So
those
this,
old growth trees.
yeah, yeah, they've been there a while. They were strong. They were wide. Um, I'm getting this as well. They had a kind within the bark. It was more. They had a tinge of red to it, like an orangey red to the bark. Like that's what I'm remembering. Recall.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, it's interesting. The five giant stream that Dr. Greg Hood had was on a battlefield shaped like the United States of America, and it was surrounded by old growth pine trees,
mhm.
which led us to the idea of the an appeal to heaven flag and the significance
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you what kind of trees there were. It's also interesting that in the dream that I shared a little bit of, um, we believe that it was indicative of things happening in the Middle East, particularly the country of Qatar. Not necessarily that the dream was in that setting, um, but I don't think that dream in particular talks about trees. But the idea of old growth oaks, I think, is very significant. It
Yeah.
reminds me of um, just leaders. I hear like the Oak Initiative, if you know what that is. Um, but it just makes me wonder where that could be and if the location is significant.
Mhm. Mhm. Because it could be both symbolic, because our nation is often compared to an oak tree, and
Mm,
uh, strong, um, doesn't tip over easy.
Mhm.
And it made me think of it being on the East Coast because the trees are so tall here. They are incredibly tall. And that made me think of the farm in
Mhm.
Virginia and the CIA training facility. But
mhm.
it could be not, it might not necessarily pinpoint it there, but um, so I
I
just thought
was,
that was an interesting detail.
yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys, is there like a major military or intelligence base over in Georgia where I actually had this dream?
Yes, I
Is
do
it
think there
something?
is a base in Georgia. I couldn't tell you what it is, but yeah, I do think there is.
Okay.
The
Okay.
largest air base in the U.S. is Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, which is 5,000
Right.
square miles.
Mhm.
And no oak trees.
No
No,
increase.
trees there.
The 10 biggest Air Force bases in the United States. Let me see. Nellis, White Sands, Barry Goldwater, Utah, 29 Palms, Fort Irwin, Eglin, Edwards, Kirkland, and San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah, Edwards is south of LA. I was thinking about Andrews because isn't Andrews where US 1 or Air Force 1 is hangared?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Where did those bombers take off and land from?
Well, oh yeah, where did they take off from? I did hear that, but there are 13 military bases in Georgia.
Okay.
Wow. Hmm. Including a submarine base.
Hmm.
Yes.
And there is an Air Force base in Houston County, Georgia. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
guys.
I'm looking at. So it was 125 aircraft, including 7 B-2 bombers. Um, and I do think it's interesting how he sent B-2 bombers to Guam. So they literally went off the East Coast and off the West Coast. And he did that so nobody would be able to find out what was happening or what the time frame would be. Operation Midnight Hammer. Um,
Wow.
they took off from Whiteman Air Force Base, I guess it looks like. I think it was Missouri.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
this is how you do dream research, folks,
then watching
in
the
real
process.
time.
Spiritual
Hmm.
intelligence, yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you come up with stuff and sometimes you don't, but it's all good.
So looking at just a brief overview of the research that we've done, there's nothing matching physically for this. So this would tell me, because I was picking up on this earlier, and again, there's layers to dreams, but I want to share this. So this part that you pointed out, Diana, there are lots of tall trees surrounding a big, huge garage that looks like an airplane hangar. So trees could also be leaders. There's a reason why I
Right.
say this. They're
Yeah.
surrounding a huge garage or an airplane hangar, something that is covered. And we could also look at this as a plan. We look at the
Mm.
dates, we always
Hmm.
hear about the plan. If you look at the plane as the plan, a vehicle to deliver the plan.
Mm.
And then on top of that, so it's protected, it's secret, it's in a big, large hangar or garage, storage, because it's a big plan. And it has doors like a garage that would come down from the top. Now you're talking about leadership and structure
Yeah.
within the plan, information being handed down like you would have it in a military plan or a business plan. Then check this out. It was white and towards the top had paneled windows. Panels, as in a panel, a team of judges, a panel that come to a decision, create the plan, and
Hmm.
then disperse that out panel wide. Windows being plural, which means there's a vision, there's an image, there's a
Hmm.
plan for every individual that comes down from the top and hits the ground
Yeah.
or opens up the hangar doors to let this plan out. But this plan's
Hmm.
already been out and it's reversing, it's coming back in to storage. It's not being released from that hangar and going out, it's coming and reversing back into that. So is this an emphasis of something that is already in the air? It's
Hmm.
already alive and flying, i.e., the plan, and it's already taken place, which goes back to the beginning of the dream. Is it the fact that the people looking out their country home window, what they're seeing in their lives in the USA, they're actually witnessing the plan in flight playing out? Because when you go down and then you go, when they actually get into the garage and Trump comes out, the dream says here, I watched this process take place and I'm in awe of it.
Yeah. I did notice that. That's in that he seemed to me to be relaxed and excited, like, we've done this, now let's go enjoy life.
Yeah.
And I think those oak trees could represent generals who have
Mm.
been
Oh,
planning for a long time to return America to her roots.
yeah.
Wow.
And then we have the 70s and 80s era. Even though you knew it was a high tech plane, it had the appearance of being from the 70s or 80s.
Again, I'm just going to say this because I feel led to say it. If we're going to look at it, not from just the literal point of view of what we've just discussed already, but from a plan perspective, could we say that this plan was put in place in the 70s and 80s? Could
Well,
this be?
that's interesting.
Could it be? I mean, we can look at the front man in this dream, the president.
Hmm.
What was he doing during the 70s and 80s? Did he know, or was he being built up to this plan to fly in this plane, the plan, and reverse everything, back it up into where it belongs in that hangar, home, the country home? Oh
Hmm.
man, I'm getting gold bumps right now.
Wow.
Is he the one during that time going through that process, being trained and revealed and debriefed and, having all of this? Man, I am getting smacked at the moment. Um, Back in this plane, this plan up
Yeah.
to where in the hangar to get its covering and the nation of the United States of America, the country window of this being seen. It's just something I want to throw out there. Wow.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's good.
Wow.
Yeah, I do feel like it was a window of you weren't on the plane, you were watching the plane return.
Correct.
And I like, of course, and you would think this is probably the way they normally do it, how they would tactically park, like when you back in, so it can immediately pull out. um, I do think the plan of things that are unfolding right now has been in play for a long time. And
Yeah.
I would imagine, um, though I don't have any direct firsthand proof or knowledge of this, just by what I know of certain players, I would imagine that long before President Trump won his second term, they talked about how are we going to solve the Iranian issue
Mhm.
Hmm.
and understanding the geopolitics
Yeah.
of, the Shah's son lives in Virginia. Like he's, and he just had a meeting not that long ago with Bibi Netanyahu.
Ah,
Um,
interesting.
I have a friend who does a lot of work evangelistically in the country of Iran by sending videos. He's Iranian, and he lives in this country, and he's led up, the largest growing underground church, I believe, in the world right now is in the country of Iran.
Wow.
And he's said that if for some reason the Ayatollah was no longer the supreme leader, the Shah's son would very likely return, and Israel and Iran would become best friends again. He
Oh,
says this generation doesn't remember, but 40 or 50 years ago, it wasn't the Islamic State.
yeah.
Iran and Israel were very close. And most of us don't remember that history. But I think it's interesting, and I do think because of some of the spiritual warfare dynamics, because of um, some of the things that Iran has backed, as far as like Hezbollah and Hamas, and even the October 7th invasion in Israel, and other things. Um, I think that it could be that their cup was full, and God said, "Okay, we've set it to go this far and no further." And that just happened to be the perfect storm of having President Trump in office and for some things to occur and the discussion on enrichment and nuclear weapons and imminent capability and things like that, which are ongoing discussions that they've had. But obviously, in other eras, we've had presidents that have chosen to fund that regime and potentially even provide materials to that level of weapon making, um, which I don't know if I could comment on my thoughts on that and still be nice, so I won't. But is beyond lunacy from a foreign policy or foreign diplomacy, foreign relations perspective, considering that we have an ally that is the nation of Israel. But I also think it's really interesting of what's happening now of being set and in place, which is what the dream is talking about. It literally is setting the stage, and it's everything that everybody who didn't discern, oh, Trump's taking us to war and he promised not to, let's try to impeach him and and literally, you guys just wait about 4 hours. It'll be over and then we'll have peace. And so it was just yet another Trumpian move where it rattles all the rats out of their cage and they all come out, squealing like the rats that they are, doing nothing to serve the country, nothing to try to help our own people, but want to do things like fund people that are here illegally instead of our veterans, instead of the homeless who don't want to take care of a poor African American population or minority population in most of our inner cities, but would rather export people from prisons in other countries for a voter base. Let's just call it what it is. And so as that's happening, um, God is using yet another what seemed like a good opportunity for them to try to bash Trump again. And they have to get to the place where they end up literally admitting Trump was right. Trump was right. He did the right play.
Yeah.
Thank God he's leading our country instead of other alternatives at a time like this, particularly when nuclear weapons and saber rattling and relationships in the Middle East is on the line. We need a hardcore, old school negotiator who understands peace through strength and has
Mhm.
zero desire to placate to the military industrial complex as part of the endless wars mantra that has been a central piece of our country politically for, gosh, the last 20, 40, 50, 100 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that it was Trump's plane, that it was the biggest plane, which is how Trump is using to describe the bill, even that he's working on. And it was backed in, meaning the plane is back, which is like the return of a mission. And you think of what just happened overseas, and so yeah, I think what's happening is God is positioning things to happen not in a regime change sort of way. And again, people misunderstood the president when they're like, well, this is a regime change. And he said, well, if certain people who are in charge of certain said country are no longer in charge, yeah, I guess that's regime change. But it's not regime change where we're going in and destabilizing a country and
Yeah.
trying to manipulate
Yeah.
elections and possibly parts of the US government, very likely rogue parts of the US government and certain administrations are doing things like nation building overseas. What's actually happening is we're actually denying, which the whole world has agreed with, denying Iran the opportunity to have nuclear weapons and then looking at what the potential would be in a democratic moving forward sort of way. And we're already seeing the groundswell in Iran and the Persian people, who was a robust, incredible, beautiful people
Yeah.
who believe in God and believe in democracy and are in a position where they're ready to kind of come out of the gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that this dream is simply about placement. It's about setting. It's about timing. And I believe God is setting the stage for what comes next. And I believe it's going to be good.
Amen.
I do too. I almost think this is like a peek at the end. You're getting to see the end of the movie and how everything turns out right. So that is incredibly encouraging to me. Any final thoughts, Ash, you wanted to throw in?
I think you just said it, Diana and John, but the main thing that stood out to me is the encouragement right at the end there. His left arm was around my shoulders, and we are both happy. So the government, the people that are behind the plan, the people that are doing what they're doing, and the people, i.e., we the people that are witnessing this, are both happy. So it's good for
Yeah.
the country, it's good for the people, but there is this comfort. Usually, not all the time, but usually with something in a dream, the Lord shows me the left is more of a defensive or comforting position. So with his arm going around my shoulder, his left is more of a defensive reassurance, encouraging. But then he says, I'm excited, which then says to me, so should you. So should us. And
Yes.
he has this big smile on his face. So it's something that you see again. It's not just words. It's not a politician saying, "Oh, we're going to be good. We're going to be great. This, we're going to," they can do this all the time. We see this and then not follow through.
Yeah.
You're actually being told something in the dream, and then you're also being shown something in the dream. So it's the words backed up with the facial expression. So the word and the vision, which is going to be heard and it's going to be seen. So I completely agree with you guys. This is not the doom and gloom message. This is not World War III, even though, like John said, the media, the propagandists are what they are. Even over here, especially over here, they're trying to ramp up the fear of World War III and try and call up a national service and blame it on Iran and Russia. That's what they're trying to do. Those are the boogeymen, not the nearly 200 and something thousand Middle Eastern fighting aged males with no females or children that come across in dinghies. So, or escorted by the Coast Guard here. So, I would say this: be encouraged, don't be fearful. And it goes as well, Diana, with the words that you've been having, especially over the last week. But today in particular, like this
Mhm.
darkness that this propaganda arm and the enemy's blowhorn is trying to portray to you and I is not the real window of reality like I
No,
saw in this dream. It's
no.
not for you and I. The real reality is the light, it's the victory, it's that a leader of the free nations of the world coming down those steps, coming down that rail, and literally going, I'm excited, putting that protective, celebrative, restful, peaceful arm around you and walking, like walking together, walking out the
Yes.
future together.
Yeah.
So, this to me, and I think I'm going to say this and I'll stop. If you were not encouraged by last week or the week before the 250th anniversary of the US Army
Mhm.
and just watching not just President Trump and hearing what he's saying and the other leaders within the government, but watching the people, hearing the
Mhm.
people, witnessing their love and their pride and their dreams, their hope for the nation
Mhm.
of America. But then stepping back even one step further from that and looking at all the other nations and all the other people from these other nations, and the majority of them want what America has. They
Yeah.
want it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yes, they are the leaders in this fight. They have a chosen leader that seems to be representing the freedom of the world at the moment. But once this part of this war, this darkness is over, just like Diana's been receiving from the Lord, like there's a template in place here for all other nations to follow. It doesn't have to be exact, but you have a basic template here for freedom and for watchmen to be put in place, policy wise, legally wise, governmental wise, and through we the people wise, that make sure that this evil and this tyranny does not get a seed in the ground again for a very, very long time in everybody's respective nations. So
Amen.
there's a lot to learn from watching what happens to America. But America, you have to understand there's a lot of people not just watching what's going down, but they're actually fighting for you in the spirit and some physically in the natural for the very values that you uphold, that are born, that are in covenant with your nation, hence with you. So whatever is going on in X or Facebook or anything else in the mainstream media, they're trying to propaganda fear and World War III and the end of the nation. Turn it off. Spiritual intelligence, your dreams, the words, and the word. What is God telling you first and foremost? Because He's given you these dreams, these visions, these words, these journal entries for a reason. No one else is getting it. You're the only one that's getting it. So ask him why. And then document this, write this down, keep it close to your heart, meditate, discern what the Holy Spirit's showing you, and you will find out that not only are you a son or daughter in God, your identity in that, you will also find out that you are chosen to be a spiritual, intelligent agent for the kingdom of heaven in this hour right now. So
That
I feel
is
that.
way cool. I have always wanted to be Intel.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And if you're looking for a community of like-minded people, look us up at spiritualintel.com or dreamlifedecoded.com, because we train people to do this. So you don't have to, I don't want anybody in the audience to look at us and be like, well, I could never, no, it's the Holy Spirit that gives the answer. And he does anoint certain people and give mantles for special seasons. But it's also biblically that both Joseph and Daniel received a level of extensive training to be able to grow and progress in hearing the voice of God, particularly in dream interpretation and spiritual intelligence at the kingly or presidential level.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're people. The three of us are people that we're just servants that the Lord happens to use, but we're also faithful in writing and documenting our dreams down and in hearing the voice of God. And when he says to say something, we say it. And when he says to not say anything, we do that as well. And there's communities out there like ours. There's very few that I think are like the three of us, or like the spiritual intelligence service that I have the privilege of leading. But there are prophetic communities and there are dreamer communities. And I would say get involved with a community that is further along than you are. That if you watch something like this and you say, oh my gosh, I don't know how they got that, but I would love to hear God speak to me. That's why we do this, is we want to be able to provide you with a level of information and intelligence literally from heaven. But we also want to provoke you to be like, man, I wish God spoke to me like he speaks to Ash in his dream, or like he speaks to Diana with her prophetic words and her visions and dreams, or like he speaks to John through interpretation, or whatever. And so ask him to do that, and then join a group of people that value the voice of God through you, and watch your life just take a complete different trajectory than it's been on before. My life has been so much richer because of Diana and Ash being in my life, being a sounding board, being on these Zoom calls at Diana's invitation, talking to Ash about his latest dream. And when something cool in my life happens, like, you guys don't see the 30 or 40 minutes when we get on before we hit record where we're catching up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing happened with a dream, and I got to tell somebody. And these two get it, like they understand. And so having that community is absolutely invaluable.
Well said, John. You brought such rich input today. I'm so glad you could join us. This was really, really just awesome time together. And Ash, thanks for letting us hash out your dream. And
thank you for doing it. And thank you, everybody, in the comment section and in your emails and any intel that you get. Share it with us, because again, you've got the vital piece of the puzzle here to help us here. So
absolutely. People always put things in the comments that I go, man, we should have gotten that. But
Yes.
everybody gets their little piece, and it all comes together. So
There's more for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. We have enjoyed being here for all of you, and love to read your comments. And we will be back when our schedules permit and the creek doesn't rise, those kinds of things.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. So be blessed, and we will talk to you again. Bye for now.